Well, a little trip today, just untied the boat. Good to be out in the water again. Been tied up in the marina for too long, far too long. Anyway, we've done all the planning. I've got the roof ready for panels to go on, and now I'm just taking the boat up to Bruce's place, and we're going to do all the work up there. So just left the marina, and I'm going to get some fuel on the way down, and I'll catch up with Brucey, and we'll put some lithium on. Fantastic. Well, we don't wear skimpy bikinis. Hell, it frightens me when I take my shirt off. There's definitely no one pregnant here. This is motor sailing for old dudes. We do live on a boat, and we do cruise extensively along the Australian coast. Join us and visit some great destinations. Learn how to look after a boat and live off grid. It might even get you enthused to do the same thing. Hey, stay out there till you can't. Ooh, that hurt a little bit. Most I've ever paid for fuel, but it's the world we live in at the moment, I guess. Buggy you, Russia. Anyhow, you got to have it. So this will be home for the next week or so while we get this job done. Luckily Bruce could move his boat onto the pontoon next door. Thanks very much, Candy. And that gives good access to Peggy-Anne for doing the upgrade. Well, the first job this morning, I'm going to get in and take that inverter out. The next thing I can do, I think. Inverter's out.
That's the old DC to DC charger. And
DC to DC charger's out.
let's get the battery charger.
Oh, there's a negative bus bar up there. Yeah. That's my weights for today. Ooh, look at that. That'll do, won't it?
I was thinking of trying to wrap it around the corners.
So what are we up to here, Brucey?
We're just preparing a board to mount everything on. Because we couldn't get a non-flammable board this big, we're going to coat it in aluminium sheeting, but we've got to pack it back off the bulkhead by 35mm to clear the bilge pump
line, yeah.
Bilge pump line.
We've got to pack it out.
So we've just been doing some little blocks. We're going to put these little blocks on the back for mounting.
So we're going to sheet this with aluminium, and then all of our controllers and
knots.
Everything, the inverted charger will all mount on this board, and then we can take that board down in, lift it into the boat, screw it up against the bulkhead.
Have it all pre-wired basically. The whole thing will be all pre-wired up here on the bench. Makes it so much easier to do.
Fantastic.
I'll go on there. Do the aluminium on the edging.
Good.
Probably stick that. No, we won't stick anything in until it's all planed out.
Yeah. So what, one there?
One there. One there. Yep. This down here somewhere. That will go along the bottom somewhere. Yep.
All this stuff came from Green Marine in Manly. A great marine electrician, and he's got all the Victron stuff as well. Go and see Chris. You want to hammer that, Chris?
She's a heavy bugger. Oh!
Bag of concrete.
Bag of concrete. I told you it was heavy. We line that up at the top. Yeah, we've got to come out of there, maybe out of that.
Yep.
Cut this short here.
Yep. We've got to go out the other side too, probably. To the charger.
Yeah, well,
That's going to go there, right?
We've got the DC charger.
Yep.
That's got to go up here somehow.
Yep.
And then we've got the shunt. We've got circuit breakers for them. One of those there.
So that'll roughly be our setup. The inverter charger in the middle, and that's the heavy. We're going to bolt that all the way through the bulkhead, and then this panel will handle all the other stuff. So we've got 2 solar controllers for our panels. We've got an EnerDrive DC to DC charger. That'll be from my port side motor through circuit breakers.
We've got a fuse for the 400 amp fuse for the inverter. It's got to go in here somewhere too.
Alright, so that'll be the setup.
Yeah, the plan is basically the plan. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. That's my theory. So plan it all out first, and then you won't make a mistake.
Okay, so we've got some circuit breakers there. Brucey, how are they going to work?
Well, we've got to have one basic on our input, one on our output from our batteries, but I'm not exactly sure what size we're going to use just yet. The thing about circuit breakers and fuse protection is a circuit breaker is there to protect the wire, not to protect the item on the end of the wire. What happens is, if these things crap themselves, what you don't want is you don't want the wire frying up. So you've got to put your circuit breaker in to make sure that the wire doesn't melt. That's the purpose of a fuse, is to protect the wire. It's not to protect the item on the end. So put your circuit breaker in according to your wire gauge, not the item at the end of it. Like in this case, we've got a 50 amp capable DC to DC charger, but we're only going to be running 15 amps through it because of our small alternators. But our wire gauge will be capable of carrying probably 80 to 100 amps, because we'll probably use 10 mil squared or 16 mil squared. But so our circuit breakers can be quite low. We really don't have to be protecting 100 amp wires.
And if you don't protect your wires and they get hot, that's how your boat burns down, I guess.
That's exactly right. Yep. These things generally, I mean, they are very, very reliable, but it's easier to put in a $20 circuit breaker than to buy a new boat.
So lots of thought going into just where we're going to site everything. So we just sealed up the back of the board, bit of epoxy. There's our fireproof front bonded to the front of it, so that's our working space. Yep. So the inverter's quite heavy. What's it, 28 kilos?
Something like that,
24 maybe.
Something, yeah.
This is a bracket it hangs on. And we've put T-nuts behind this, so nice big, sorry Bruce, how much was it weigh?
Just make sure that's in line. Can't quite tell that. That's it.
That's it. Okay. Little bit
out.
no, it's a little bit
It's much easier to lay everything out on a board if you can, and do all your wiring on a bench top, of course, and then just take the whole lot into the boat. It just gives you that option of shifting things around. You're not cramped up with your neck all twisted around your backside, pretty much.
seems like it's going to be a little bit neater than the original system, Brucey.
A little neater. If you're going to tackle this yourself, probably the most important thing you're going to need to do is make good electrical connections. Invest in a set of these. You can get them off the eBay. This was under $14 on eBay. They sell for about 25 bucks in eBay, but you can get them cheap. They're not real good. Nowhere near what you really need, but for the sake of a handyman home job, they'll do the job. They won't crimp anything above 25 square mil. Don't believe what you read on the web. 25 square mil's maximum for them. But if you're going to do it yourself, try and make the effort to buy, terminals come in different styles. This is an open style crimp. It's a JST, that stands for Japan Solderless Terminal Company. Then you've got this style, which is very common. I'll explain to you in a minute why I use the open terminal. Actually, you might have just seen it with my soldering. There's that style, and there's the completely closed barrel style. That's an old one that I've had. When it comes to crimping, if you don't have the right tool, or you're going to use one of these cheap Chinese tools, I highly recommend you try and get the open terminal. Because what you can do is you crimp it first, and as you were seeing just a few minutes ago, then you can fill the top of the unit with solder. So you've got both a mechanical and an electrical bond, and that is a good connection. If you just crimp it, you're asking for trouble, especially if you're going to use these cheaper tools. So solder everything, and then you know you're right, because that's how fires start. If you get a bad connection causes heat, heat causes fire. And then after you've soldered it, a little bit of heat shrink. Seal him off. Job done. Another thing too that you might want to watch is these circuit breakers. If you buy these type of circuit breakers, they're actually marked battery and load. It's written there in very fine print. Keep in mind that you can see this one is actually upside down compared to that one. I haven't actually mounted them upside down. I've mounted them according to the way the current flows. So they're actually labelled battery and load. So think of it as this end's got to go to the battery. The current, probably the simplest way of thinking about it is that's going to the battery and that's feeding out, and this one is actually feeding back into the battery. So this is your battery, and although that's going to the battery, it's actually auxiliary. Bit back to front, but they are position sensitive apparently.
It's all starting to look really good. We're just off to Bunnings now to buy a few more bits and pieces. Taj and Paul have come up this morning in their catamaran. They've bought all the old gear, so all the old panels, the wind gen, and the batteries are off the boat. Fantastic.
Right as I.
Obviously, I like it. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the install. There's probably another couple to do yet before we finish it. And those of you that aren't interested in installing lithium ion, there's some exciting news coming up for what we're going to do for the rest of the year. So please stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next episode.